My beloved child, pause for a moment and feel the shift in the air around you, because something has already happened behind the scenes that carries your name in it. Somewhere, in a quiet conversation you were never meant to hear, this person spoke about you. Not casually. Not carelessly. But with a depth that surprised even them. There was a room. A familiar space. A relative sitting across from them. And then your name surfaced. Not by accident. By intention. What you are about to understand may change the way you see the silence between you. So don't skip. Stay with this until the end, because something huge is waiting for you inside this truth. They did not speak of you as a passing thought. They spoke of you as a possibility. As a turning point. As someone who has quietly rearranged their emotional world without even realizing it. The relative noticed it first, the way their voice softened when they mentioned you. The way their posture changed. The way they paused before answering certain questions, as if protecting something sacred. And then the confession unfolded. They admitted that what they feel is not light, not temporary, not just curiosity. They said your presence has been echoing in their decisions. That when they imagine the future, somehow, you appear there, not in fantasy, but in plans. Yes, plans. Not dramatic declarations. Not exaggerated promises. But careful, thoughtful planning. They asked their relative what it means when someone occupies your mind even during ordinary moments. They asked if it is normal to feel both calm and terrified when thinking about one person. They asked if timing can be adjusted for someone who feels right. The relative listened. Then they smiled. Because it was clear. Clear that this was not infatuation. Clear that something deeper was forming. Now listen closely. They shared that they have been holding back, not because they doubt you, but because they want to approach this correctly. They spoke about wanting stability. Wanting growth. Wanting to step toward you with intention rather than impulse. This was not gossip. It was vulnerability. And here is the part that might surprise you. The relative asked them, "Are you ready to act on this?" There was silence. A long one. Not out of fear, but out of seriousness. Because when feelings are real, they are handled carefully. They admitted they are preparing themselves, emotionally, practically, mentally, so that when they move with certainty. You were described as someone rare. Someone not easily replaced. Someone who shifted their standards. Let that settle in. They said you make them reflect. You make them want to become clearer, better, stronger. And that kind of influence is not ordinary. Stay till the end, because this conversation did not stop at feelings. It expanded into future steps. They spoke about timing. About how they don't want to rush and risk misunderstanding. They spoke about wanting alignment, not confusion. They even asked their relative how to approach someone they deeply respect without overwhelming them. Respect. That word was repeated. They do not see you as a temporary chapter. They see you as a potential foundation. And foundations require preparation. The relative gave them advice, simple, grounded advice: if it's real, it will feel steady. That is when they admitted something else. When they think of you, it feels steady. Not chaotic. Not unstable. Steady. And steady feelings are rare. But here is what you were never supposed to know. They are planning a conversation. Not random. Not accidental. Intentional. They want clarity. They want honesty. They want to express without pressure but with depth. They are thinking about the right moment. And while you have been living your days unaware of this discussion, their world has been quietly adjusting around you. Don't skip this part. Because the most powerful revelation was not loud. It was subtle. They said, "I don't want to lose this chance." That sentence changed the tone of the entire room. Because it revealed something vulnerable, they see you as a chance. A rare alignment. A door that does not open often. The relative asked, "Are you afraid?" They answered honestly, "Yes." But not of them. "I'm afraid of missing the timing." Timing. That is what has been holding this in the background. Not doubt. Not confusion. Timing. Now imagine what that means. While you may have questioned their silence, they have been calculating their steps. While you may have wondered about their distance, they have been gathering courage. Something huge is waiting for you in this unfolding, because this is not about fantasy. It is about intention meeting readiness. And readiness is closer than you think. There is another layer. They shared their concerns too. Not about your worth, but about their own preparedness. They want to show up as someone capable of protecting what you both could build. They do not want to offer half-effort. They do not want to begin something they cannot sustain. This is maturity. And maturity moves slowly but decisively. The relative asked them, "What if they don't feel the same?" They paused again. Then they said something powerful. "If they don't, I will still respect them. But I have to be honest about what I feel." Honesty. That is the direction they are leaning toward. Not manipulation. Not games. Honesty. And here is what makes this once-in-a-lifetime energy. They do not talk about people this way. This was confirmed in that room. The relative even said, "I've never heard you speak about anyone like this." And they didn't deny it. Because it's true. You are not just a passing thought in their life. You are a pivot. A point where they began to rethink their future. Stay a little longer, because what you're sensing is not imagination. It is alignment slowly revealing itself. There are moments coming where you may notice subtle shifts. More direct communication, deeper eye contact, conversations that feel more intentional. That will not be coincidence. It will be preparation turning into action. They are not rushing because they want this to last. They are not silent because they don't care. They are deliberate because they do. And as this unfolds, you may feel a strange calm mixed with anticipation. That calm is your intuition recognizing something genuine. You were spoken about with care. You were described with admiration. You were considered with seriousness. This is not a dramatic twist. It is a steady revelation. And steady revelations often lead to lasting outcomes. Something is aligning quietly. Something is building without noise. Something is preparing to step into the light. Don't skip the next phase of this journey, because the conversation that already happened is only the beginning. Plans are forming. Courage is gathering. Timing is approaching. And when that moment arrives, it will not feel random. It will feel earned. Stay till the end of this unfolding story in your own life, because something huge is waiting for you, not in fantasy, not in illusion, but in deliberate intention moving toward you with clarity. This person has already taken the first invisible step. The next one may not stay invisible for long. Something shifted after that conversation, and you can almost feel it now, even if you don't know why. Because once feelings are spoken out loud, even to a single trusted relative, they stop being silent dreams and start becoming intentions. And intentions, when nurtured carefully, begin to move. Don't skip this moment. Stay till the end, because what you are about to understand is not random emotion. It is a quiet transformation happening in real time. After they left that conversation, they did not immediately text you. They did not rush to make a dramatic move. Instead, they walked away thinking, reflecting, replaying every word they had said about you. And something surprised them. They realized that everything they described was consistent. There was no exaggeration. No confusion. No contradiction. The feelings they confessed matched the way they have been behaving internally for weeks, maybe even months. That realization grounded them. They began observing themselves more closely. Noticing how your name changes their mood. How your presence shifts their energy. How even small interactions with you carry more weight than they admit publicly. The relative's words kept echoing in their mind, if it's steady, it's serious. And when they measured what they feel for you, it was steady. Not chaotic excitement. Not impulsive attraction. Steady. That is the kind of feeling that builds futures. Now listen carefully. They started thinking about practical steps. Not fantasy scenarios. Not daydreams. Real steps. They asked themselves, if I move toward this, how do I do it with respect? How do I express myself without pressure? How do I create space for honesty without overwhelming them? That level of care is rare. You were not spoken about like a challenge to win. You were spoken about like something to protect. And here is where it deepens. They admitted to their relative that you have changed their standards. That before you, they were willing to settle for connections that felt convenient. But now, convenience feels empty. Because once someone shows you emotional depth, you cannot go back to shallow waters. You became their comparison point, not out of obsession, but out of clarity. Don't skip this truth. They even confess that sometimes they hold back communication because they are afraid of saying something careless. They want their words to carry weight. They want their approach to feel intentional. Think about that. In a world where people move fast and speak without thought, this person is slowing down because they value the potential of you. The relative noticed something else during that conversation. When they asked about your qualities, this person did not list superficial traits. They didn't talk about appearance or surface-level charm. They talked about your mindset, your presence, the way you handle situations, the way you respond instead of react. They spoke about your calm. They spoke about your strength. They spoke about your depth. And when someone admires depth, it means they are searching for substance. But here is what truly shifted everything. At one point, the relative asked them, "Do you see a future with them?" There was no hesitation this time. Yes. That answer came quickly. Naturally. Without overthinking. And that is when the relative realized this is not a temporary emotion. This is alignment forming slowly. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you in the layers of this story. After that conversation, they began adjusting their own life quietly. Focusing more on stability. Being more intentional with their time. Thinking about long-term goals instead of short-term distractions. You may not connect this to yourself, but you are connected. When someone begins preparing for a future that includes you, their decisions shift subtly. They start asking, "Am I ready to offer consistency? Am I emotionally mature enough to sustain something meaningful? Am I clear about my intentions?" These are not casual thoughts. These are foundation questions. And here is the revelation that might surprise you most. They are not just planning to confess feelings. They are planning to create an environment where those feelings can grow safely. That means patience. That means timing. That means choosing the right moment, not to impress you, but to honor what they feel. There is something powerful about being discussed with seriousness behind closed doors. It means you are not just a topic. You are a priority. The relative even gave them practical advice: when you speak to them, be clear. Don't hide behind jokes. Don't dilute your feelings. Say it with calm confidence. They listened carefully. And since that day, they have been rehearsing conversations in their mind. Not dramatic speeches. Simple honesty. They imagine saying, "I've been thinking about us." They imagine your reaction. They imagine the possibility of you feeling the same. And yes, they imagine the possibility of you not feeling the same. But here is what separates this from impulsive emotion. They are willing to accept either outcome, as long as they are honest. Because carrying unspoken feelings has started to feel heavier than the risk of vulnerability. Don't skip this next layer. They also shared something deeply personal with that relative, something they rarely admit. They said that being around you makes them want to grow. Not change who they are, but refine who they are. You inspire them without trying. That kind of influence is rare and powerful. It means your presence has already shifted their trajectory. And here is what you need to understand. When someone talks to a relative about their feelings and plans, it is because they are testing the seriousness of their own heart. They are seeking perspective. They are measuring readiness. And after that conversation, they did not walk away confused. They walked away more certain, more focused, more prepared. You may have sensed subtle changes recently, a different tone in their voice, slightly deeper conversations, moments of quiet intensity. That is not coincidence. That is preparation turning into courage. Something huge is waiting for you in this unfolding. Because soon, thinking will turn into speaking. Reflection will turn into action. And silence will turn into clarity. But here is the most delicate part of this story. They do not want to rush because they believe this connection deserves patience. They understand that strong foundations are not built overnight. They are choosing long-term over temporary excitement. And in a world where people chase quick validation, that choice is significant. The relative asked them one final question before the conversation ended. If you could tell them one thing right now, what would it be? They answered softly. I want them to know I'm serious. Serious. Not dramatic. Not impulsive. Serious. And that seriousness is shaping everything that follows. As you move through your days, unaware of every internal dialogue happening behind the scenes, remember this: you were not spoken about casually. You were discussed with intention, analyzed with care, and placed into future plans with thoughtfulness. This is not fantasy. This is emotional maturity unfolding quietly. Stay a little longer in this awareness. Because the next step they take will not feel random. It will feel deliberate. And when they finally speak, you may notice something different in their tone: steadiness, clarity, confidence. That confidence will not come from nowhere. It will come from that private conversation. From that moment they chose to admit their feelings out loud. From that decision to stop pretending it's just nothing. You are not nothing in their story. You are becoming a chapter they want to write carefully. Don't skip what is unfolding in your life right now. Because something huge is waiting for you, not as a dramatic surprise, but as a calm revelation. A conversation is forming. A confession is strengthening. A plan is solidifying. And while you may still be standing at the edge of uncertainty, they are already walking toward clarity. The question is no longer whether they feel something. The question is when they will express it. And that moment is getting closer than you think. There is a quiet momentum building now, and you may not see it yet, but you can feel it in the subtle shifts around you. After that conversation with their relative, something inside them settled. Not in a way that made everything easy, but in a way that made everything clear. Clarity does not always remove fear, but it removes confusion. And confusion was the only thing that had been holding them back. Don't skip this part. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you in the details you are about to understand. They began watching their own patterns. Not obsessively. Not dramatically. Just honestly. They noticed how often their thoughts returned to you during ordinary moments. While driving. While working. While sitting alone at night. Your name would surface gently, not as noise, but as a steady presence. That steadiness reassured them. Because temporary emotions fade quickly. But this had lasted. They asked themselves difficult questions. If I speak, am I ready for what follows? If they accept, can I sustain this? If they hesitate, can I remain patient? They were not looking for fantasy. They were looking for responsibility. And responsibility is what transforms feelings into plans. The relative's voice echoed again, "Be certain before you step forward." So they searched for certainty. They revisited past conversations with you. They remembered your expressions, your tone, the moments when silence between you felt meaningful instead of awkward. They analyzed the way you respond when they speak seriously. They paid attention to the small signals most people overlook. Because this is not a game to them. You may not realize it, but you have become someone they measure decisions against. When faced with choices, they sometimes ask themselves, would this align with the future I imagine with them? That is not casual thinking. That is integration. Slowly, they began adjusting their priorities. Not dramatically. Not announcing anything. Just small shifts. More focus. Less distraction. More discipline. Less impulsiveness. Why? Because when someone imagines building something real, they prepare quietly. Stay with this. Don't skip, because the next layer reveals how deep this truly goes. There was another conversation with that same relative a few days later. This time, the tone was different. More confident. Less uncertain. The relative asked, "Have you decided what you're going to do?" And they answered, "Yes. I just need the right moment." The right moment. Not a perfect moment. Not a cinematic scene. Just a moment that feels honest and natural. They do not want pressure. They do not want performance. They want authenticity. And authenticity requires courage. Here is something that might surprise you. They admitted they are afraid of one thing only, not rejection, not embarrassment, but miscommunication. They do not want their words to be misunderstood. They want you to feel safe when they speak. They want clarity, not confusion. That level of care reveals depth. They are not planning a dramatic confession. They are planning a conversation. There is a difference. A confession seeks relief. A conversation seeks connection. And they are choosing connection. You might wonder why they have not already acted if their feelings are this steady. The answer is simple: they are aligning their inner world first. They want their actions to reflect who they truly are, not who they hope to impress you with. They are refining themselves. And when someone refines themselves because they see you in their future, that is powerful. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you inside this unfolding realization. They have started imagining scenarios, not fantasies, but practical interactions. Inviting you somewhere meaningful. Having a calm discussion. Expressing appreciation first, before expressing intention. They want to acknowledge your value before they reveal their desire. That is respect. The relative once asked them, what makes them different? Their answer was immediate. They feel like home and growth at the same time. Think about that. Home and growth. Comfort and expansion. That balance is rare. Most connections offer one or the other. But when someone feels both, it becomes difficult to ignore. They have also admitted something quietly to themselves: they are no longer satisfied with shallow connections. After recognizing what they feel for you, everything else feels incomplete. You raised the standard. Without even trying. Don't skip this next truth. There have been moments when they almost reached out impulsively, almost sent a message that revealed too much too quickly. But they stopped themselves. Not because they doubted you, but because they wanted to approach with steadiness, not emotion. They are learning patience through you. And patience is a sign of seriousness. The relative gave them one more piece of advice: when you speak, don't ask for an answer immediately. Give them space to feel. They took that advice deeply. They are preparing not just to speak, but to listen. To your response. To your silence. To your truth. Because they understand that if this is meant to grow, it must grow mutually. Something huge is waiting for you in that mutual space. You may have noticed them observing you more closely recently. Not in a strange way. In a thoughtful way. They are trying to understand your emotional rhythm. When you are open. When you are quiet. When you seem reflective. They want to choose a moment when you are emotionally available, not distracted. That is intention. And here is another revelation. They are not only thinking about how to begin. They are thinking about sustainability. How to maintain consistency. How to build trust slowly. How to protect the connection from unnecessary misunderstandings. They see this as something that requires care. You are not a risk to them. You are an investment. That is why they spoke to a relative first. To ground themselves. To avoid rushing in blindly. To make sure what they feel is stable. And after reflection, it remains stable. Steady. Strong. Real. Stay with this unfolding. Don't skip, because the next shift will matter. They have begun subtly testing emotional openness with you. Slightly deeper questions. Slightly more personal sharing. Watching how you respond. Not to manipulate, but to gauge readiness. If you respond with warmth, their confidence grows. If you respond with distance, they adjust. They are paying attention. Because they do not want to assume. They want to understand. The relative recently asked them, "When will you finally speak?" They smiled and said, "Soon." Not eventually. Not someday. Soon. That word carries intention. Soon means preparation is nearly complete. Soon means courage is gathering. Soon means timing is aligning. You may feel something approaching even before it happens. A sense of anticipation without explanation. That is not coincidence. That is alignment. Something huge is waiting for you in the form of clarity. Not chaos. Not confusion. Clarity. When they finally speak, it will not feel like a shock. It will feel like a confirmation of something you sensed quietly. Because energy does not lie. You have likely felt their attention deepen. Their seriousness grow. Their pauses become more thoughtful. That is not random behavior. That is someone preparing to shift a connection into a new chapter. And here is the most powerful part. They are ready to risk vulnerability for you. Not recklessly, but intentionally. They understand that meaningful connections require courage. And they have decided you are worth that courage. Stay till the end of this unfolding in your own life. Because what began as a quiet conversation with a relative has now evolved into a personal commitment inside them.